Well, folks, thanks for joining us here. We are live. Rick Winters along with you. And I'm along with Eric Halverson joining us here, and it's an event 150 years in the making. The Waupaca Fire Department celebrating 150 years, and to kick that off, we're going to start with a big old parade. So again, welcome, Eric Halverson. And I just discovered. So you're we don't call you a retired fireman. What do they call you?
They call us life members.
So you're a life member.
Yep.
All right.
But retired. I retired in 2014.
2014. Well, how long you been a firefighter?
About 24 years.
Okay. Well, it looks like you're still involved helping get this thing all going here today.
And it's one of those things that I enjoyed every day that I was active, and it's still trying to stay as active as I can as a retired member and support the department. The big thing with volunteer fire departments is community involvement. So and that's great with all of them. I think we've got probably close to 50 trucks in the parade.
Oh my goodness.
Probably representing 40-some communities there, and the community support that goes out to every one of those fire departments out there, that's what keeps them alive.
We always say the firemen answer the call, and today they really did, because not only do we have a whole bunch of fire trucks, as you just mentioned, we got a lot more than anticipated, because we had fire departments from across the state kind of show up unannounced today. So we got even more than anticipated.
Yep, absolutely.
It's going to be a huge event. So, folks, there is still time. Now, here's the deal. We're going to get to know Eric a little bit here, because we got a little time to kill.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Because the parade officially started here at 10 a.m., but they are on the other side of town. So they are starting at the middle school. To give you a quick idea of the route. Do you know the route here?
Yes, I do. It's going to start out down by the Waupaca Middle School on Shoemaker Road, and then it will head down that way and take a right and come down Churchill Street. And once it gets to Churchill Street, it'll take a left onto, let's see, I got to get my directions going here. I'm sitting backwards. It's going to come down Royalton Street and then down onto School Street, and it'll turn and go down Badger Street, and pretty much end. There's Waupaca Ladder 909 is down there with a nice big American flag hanging over the middle of the street, and it will kind of disperse from there. And then after that, the festivities are moving up to Swan Park, and it's a full day of events up there.
All right, so folks, if you're still coming on down, you heard that, where the ladder truck is displayed fairly spectacularly over Badger Street here. That marks the unofficial, official end of the parade. So you want to be before that. And there's still plenty of room, but a lot of people have come out on this beautiful Saturday morning. So why I say there's going to be a little bit of a delay, as far as we can tell, the parade is probably underway. And let's say it's 1.5 miles away or so. No more than 2 miles. But they're starting with bagpipers.
Yep.
They have some folks walking. So it might take them 15, 20 minutes to get here, unless we got lucky today and we got the sprinting bagpipers of Brigadoon.
Well, that could happen, and the bagpipers do wear kilts, so that's...
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
traditional Irish...
Well, on a warm, humid day like today, I would take a kilt. I'm going to turn to you for some fire history, by the way. And if you don't know the answer, it's okay to say I don't know. And that's my first thing is since you've been a fireman for 24 years, I've always noticed that we do incorporate bagpipes, whether it's in funerals or other celebrations. Is there a reason why there's a background like that?
There is, and I had to look that up. It was like, it's interesting we're starting out with bagpipes, and why bagpipes? It's in fire departments and law enforcement communities. Usually at a funeral there's bagpipers there, so I had to look back at that, and it goes back to I believe it was the 1860s when the potato famine in Ireland. There were a lot of immigrants that came to the Americas here, and the only jobs they could find here was the less than desirable jobs, which was fire departments and law enforcement. And if one of their members passed away, it was tradition in Ireland that the bagpipes played, and as they became more accepted and just more common, I guess, that was the thing that you did. You had bagpipes at a fire department or a law enforcement funeral.
It became a tradition then. You don't have to be Irish. That's amazing.
No, man, that's awesome.
One thing I do want to point out, if anybody is listening in their car, as we are live on 96.3 here, the city radio station, you will notice that we did not close down the roads today. So the roads are still open. There is traffic, and there will be for the most part for the parade, it looks like.
Yep, pretty much.
So if you're listening, we can simply ask you, but we can't tell you, to avoid the parade route.
Correct.
Yes.
And don't blow your horns when you're going through.
Yes, and don't blow your horns unless you're actually a fireman. So, yeah, if you are able, by choice, to avoid the Churchill to Royalton to School to Badger, you'll help out the parade a lot today.
Or pull over to the side and enjoy the parade.
Just like you normally would for a fire truck. All right, well, let's talk about after the parade, because, again, this is just the start of what's going to be a very long and wonderful day. So we're expecting the parade to get in front of us around, let's say, 10:20 or so. But after that, you said we're all going down to Swan Park?
Swan Park.
What's going on down at Swan Park today?
We've got everything going on down there. There's a lot of vendors set up down there. We've got some food trucks down there, and I'm not reading off my list here, but we've got activities for the kids. We've got 3 bands throughout the day. I believe the bands start at 1 o'clock
well, we got Desperados,
who,
if you've never heard Desperados, you're going to really like them. They're going to start at 1:30 this afternoon, and they're going to play on and off for about 3 hours. And right after that, they're going to do the old switcheroo, and Brad Emanuel comes on stage at 4:30, and Brad will be performing from 4:30 till 7. And then it's the big concert. It is Boogie and the Yo-Yos starting at 8 o'clock tonight, playing from 8 to 11:30. Boogie and the Yo-Yos, one of my favorite area bands.
Oh, absolutely. Haven't heard them in a long time. I mean, well, we went through 2020, so
you're
we
right.
didn't go anywhere. But
Eric, until you pointed that out, I did not realize. I haven't seen some live music in about a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So come on down, folks. Join the fun, and let's celebrate 150 years here in Waupaca for the Waupaca Fire Department. It's just amazing. You know what? Somebody that we have to acknowledge here, who also doesn't really feel he needs to be acknowledged. Somebody who is instrumental in all this is Mr. Steve Fenske.
Oh yeah, Steve's been going wild with this. This actually started about 4 years ago, maybe 5. Just thinking about putting together. We actually did a little bit back for the 125th, and Steve said, no, the 150th, this is a big one. And I'm pretty sure Steve and I won't be around for 200, but we'll try.
We'll try our best. Try our best. Yeah, he put a lot of work into this. And Steve, I've known years ago when he first got involved with the fire department, and he works with the hazmat unit and just he basically devotes his life to helping others.
Oh, absolutely. I think, I don't know all the years of service that the members have on, but Steve has to be on 30 or 31 now.
It's amazing.
So, yeah, he started the year before I did.
That's amazing.
Math isn't good on a Saturday morning for me, but
so it was Steve who was instrumental in contacting many of these other departments and asking them, hey, we're going to have this event. Can you bring a truck? Can you bring anything you got to the parade?
And they had a parade committee put together, so they kind of divvied up the tasks, and there's a lot of every member of the fire department jumped in and has had a part in this. So they had a crew that reached out to a lot of the fire departments throughout the state. They had another group that was putting together the activities and events that are going on up at Swan Park today. One of the other things they did in years past, it's actually been, and I had asked Steve about that, it's been 12 years since the last dance was up at Swan Park.
Okay.
And I didn't think it was that long.
I didn't think so either. Wow.
So they've got a lot of good things. They've got multiple food trucks up there. So if you're hungry today, go to the park. There's not an entry fee to get in up there. So go up there.
That's the best part. You could just walk in, walk around, and enjoy the fun. So speaking of the events, because again, I'm Rick Winters. He's Eric Halverson. You're listening to us live on 96.3, or we're also on YouTube. You're watching some video here. The parade we believe it is underway. We just have to wait because they are literally walking. It's starting with walkers, walking from the other side of town to get here. And as soon as we will first hear the mournful wails of the bagpipes, and we'll know that they're coming our way. Yeah. But again, folks, if you are listening, if you are able to come on down, there's still plenty, bring a lawn chair. Bring a blanket to sit on. There's plenty of grass here right on School Street to check it out. But again, we were talking about some of the events going on, and if you can get down to Swan Park, really the official ceremony gets underway at 12. That's when they're going to have the posting of the colors with the professional firefighters of Wisconsin. The Honor Guard will be there. I know we're going to have the national anthem. Do we know who the performer is of the national anthem this year?
Oh, yes, I did, and I wrote it down and left it on my desk.
I got it right here. Here, I have to look at at my notes. Pamela Gusmer.
Oh, there we
okay,
are, yes.
she's a great performer.
Yep,
okay.
absolutely.
So she'll be doing the national anthem today. Rick Graves, who is the honor guard chaplain, he'll be down there doing the blessing of the fire department. And then they have something, and I'll have to ask you what this is. They have what's called a final bell tribute. What is that, Eric?
So typically what they'll do is they ring a bell for every life lost in the fire service at these ceremonies. And I don't know that they're going to do all of them or if they're just going to have a ceremonial amount of bells ringing. I've never witnessed it myself, so I'm hoping to be up there when that goes off to be a part of that.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be nonetheless an emotional moment before all the fun begins in the later afternoon. And then Rick Graves will be back with the fireman's prayer. But after that, as we mentioned, music throughout the day. And by the way, seriously, Boogie and the Yo-Yos, if you've never seen these guys and gals, it's the best party band in the state.
Oh, absolutely.
Love these guys. They're going to be there. So food and refreshments. Just checking my calendar of events here. Of course, there'll be some soda, some beer, some food throughout. You mentioned the food trucks. We'll give them a shout out. I'm sure we've all heard of Grilligans and the Aftershock barbecue. Probably going to fill up on some of that myself, to be honest.
I'm going to try them all. I'm not that way.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm going to try them all.
Share the love. King Cone will be there with ice cream, and Subway will be there. A lot of stuff for the kids this year, too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's tattooing, and they've got a bounce house. There's a junior firefighter challenge, so they've got a little challenge course to go through. And I don't know if I'm too old, but I think I'd like to try it.
Let's go into the bouncy house later.
Well, we can do that, too.
I saw some of the challenges. They have one of the challenges is it simulates putting out a fire. You have like these 3 windows, and you have to simulate putting it out. And I did that at one of your other events. It was a challenge.
Oh, it is.
It was a challenge.
They don't give you enough water pressure. It's not like a fire truck, so it'd make it real easy. But it's fun for the kids, and, if it's a hot afternoon, if you squirt somebody, that's okay. It's just water.
Oh,
so
of course.
We're going to have fun with that. They also have a fire extinguisher simulator. They acquired that a few years ago, and they take that around to schools during Fire Prevention Week. And, it actually, you're not shooting off a fire extinguisher and making dust. And if you've ever tasted it, fire extinguisher, it's bad, and it floats around. So it's an electronic demonstration on how to use a fire extinguisher, and it's great. They take it around to businesses. So, local businesses, if you want to have training on how to use a fire extinguisher, get a hold of the fire department. They're more than happy to come out and do that. And, the biggest part, through my years in the fire service, it's fire prevention and education of people. And, when you hear of a tragic fire, that there's a death in a fire, it's not very often. And I think a lot of that's just educating the public and, making them safe. And that's the biggest thing. We'd rather spend time keeping people safe than actually going out and putting out a fire.
Yeah, we have one of the other life members. Romy Youngers came in, and he did a commercial promoting this event, and one of the quotes on there is referring 150 years. We can count the years, but we can't count the homes saved and the lives saved over those 150 years. And it is amazing to think about that. To go from the potential tragedy to just really just a small burn and everything, because you guys are on the scene, saving lives, saving homes, saving property.
There's so much that factors into that. And, you look back 150 years ago, how were the firefighters getting notified to go to a fire? And quite simply, it was bells. There was a bell out in front of the fire station that they'd ring that. And in larger cities, I can't say for sure in Waupaca, but in some of the larger communities, if you heard a fire bell ring, then the next guy, they'd have a bell out in front of their house, and they'd ring their bell, and then they'd all go down to the fire station. And it changed through that, with the advent of telephones and things. They actually had, we called them squawk boxes back in the day, because they'd squawk at you and it said you had a fire. And you'd take off and you'd run down to the fire station. And then eventually we got electronic, we got pagers, and we set tones off. You could actually carry your little squawk box right on your belt. Yeah. And it's really kind of funny. Firefighters, when they went to church, you have to take your pager with you. And you had the option of turning on vibrate, or it would ring, and about half the guys would forget. Oh, it was so embarrassing. You know, you'd be in church or in a public place doing something, and all of a sudden your pager would go off, and everybody get up and
half
run.
half the congregation would run.
Yep. Here we go.
Forgive me, Father.
So, and it's changed through time. I mean, I've got a radio sitting on the table here. We're using two-way communications that way, and the latest thing that we have is smartphone apps. So when the 911 dispatcher gets a call, and it could be for a fire, it could be for a car accident, or somebody needs an ambulance, it'll actually send text messages out that gives them the address and how to get there, what's going on.
It's amazing.
So
technology.
It's
the trick is getting you there as soon as possible.
Yep, absolutely. And some of these actually interface, so when they receive that message, it'll bring up a map. Actually,
that's the best.
A drive-by
right there.
You know, a street-by-street direction
little
on
GPS, how to get there. You mentioned the phone calls, and I think we're going to encounter that with one of the fire departments. Many of the fire departments were polite enough to give us some background, and I know one of them that we're going to discuss when they come by. They actually let us know about how they did it back in the day, and they said that the fire chief, when he would hear of a fire, he would call a guy, and that guy would call three guys, and he would call three guys, and the phone tree is how they got the word out.
It was a phone tree, and actually if we go back in time in Waupaca, as far back as I can remember, the old fire station used to be down on the north end of Main Street. And back when they had the horses, the maintenance person and caretaker for the horses actually lived upstairs in the fire station. So if the phone rang, he'd go ring the bell, or eventually they had a siren on top of the hill on the end of Main Street, and he'd set the siren off if it was after hours. During the day, you know, someone that was around the fire station would set it off. But, you know, talking about that, there's very few times that there's not a volunteer firefighter at the station. Whether there's a fire or not, they're always doing something.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, let's take a look down the street. You know, nothing quite yet. And again, we don't hear the sounds of either the fire engines or the bagpipers. Do we know, are the bagpipers leading the parade? Is that the word?
Yes, they are.
All right. So again, they're on foot. So we're figuring, you know, 3 miles per hour, however quickly you can walk while blowing on bagpipes. So it might take them a little while to get here. But, you know, we've got... we're going to be here. We've got about 50, give or take, because we know there were some surprise entries. We got about 50 different apparatus coming through. And Am I using the right word, apparatus?
Yes.
Is that what we call them?
Absolutely.
I don't call them a fire truck?
No, you can.
Okay.
They are fire. Well, some of them aren't going to be fire trucks, though. There's going to be some other equipment in here.
Brush trucks.
We'll call it apparatus.
Okay.
And actually, the Flag Honor Guard will be leading. They'll be right ahead of the bagpipers.
All
but
right.
It's from the same group of people. And they're actually out of Milwaukee, Madison. They're from all over the state.
Yeah.
So this is a professional firefighters honor guard that goes together there. And, you know, in the fire service, they're all brothers. So when they call for help and they've got an activity going on, they're more than happy to come out. And
absolutely. Well, let's talk about Waupaca then. Who's the fire chief for the Waupaca Fire Department?
That would be Jerry 146 Dooman.
146 Dooman.
Yeah.
All right, Jerry.
Actually, it's 301, but we renumbered him this in the last week here. So,
how often do you change numbers?
Not very often.
Okay. Is there a reason behind the number change?
No, there is, but I just won't mention that.
Okay.
We'll just see where it goes.
We'll keep that quiet.
If you see Jerry up at Swan Park, ask him what 146 is.
All right. So Jerry Dooman, he is the chief here. And looking at my list, I see we've got some assistant chiefs and captains, including Kim Nelson. There's Steve Fenske again and Jake Waller. We got a safety officer, Tim Banaszak. Mike Youngers. Boy, there's Youngers and the fire department here. Absolutely. Just generations, isn't it?
There's a lot of different generations in the fire department. I mean, for a while, looking back, and I would have to look to see who all was on there, but the Whitman family. I mean, you know, that was 3 generations that came through the fire department. You had Bob Whitman, Chuck Whitman.
And Andrew's right now, right?
Andrew right now.
Yeah.
And Vergowens, I think the entire Vergowen family was probably on at one time. Ken was, Eric was, Tony, well, Eric and Tony both are yet.
It's amazing. I noticed some of the fire departments, when we talk about generations, some of the fire departments that will be coming through talk about they have a junior fire department or a junior fire league with like
juniors
14 to 18-year-olds. Do you have that in Waupaca here?
We did for a while. We worked with the Explorer Group, which is a pretty large network of people, and it was hard to keep enough interest in there, and there were so many other things going on, but I'm sure they would like to bring that back again.
Yeah.
But we did a lot of training with them, and there was actually a couple of them that continued on and went through Fox Valley Tech to get their fire certifications over there and are on departments now.
So what would a junior fire or a cadet do? Would they clean the fire truck after the fire or something?
Yeah, a lot of them would do that, and kind of limited as to what they can do depending on their age. But we'd take them out, and they would help with fire prevention activities and taking things back into school with them. Just basic fire science we'd start with them, and how does a fire start? You have to have a fuel source, heat, oxygen, and then somewhere along the line, chemistry got involved, and it's a chemical chain reaction. So they say there's 4 things involved. If you take any one of the 4 away, it goes away. And we always threw in the chief in there too. So if you took the chief out of the equation, the fire would go out.
You mentioned something quite important back there that I've neglected to mention so far this morning. You talked about some of them would go on to Fox Valley and get their training. And there's a lot of training. There is nonstop training involved with being a fireman. A firefighter, excuse me, because there's at least one lady on the crew in Waupaca.
A long time ago, actually, when the Waupaca Fire Department started, and that was May 11th of 1871. The very first meeting, you had to bring a dime to the meeting. That's how they got it started. They had a foul mouth bucket. You had to put some money in there for that.
They had a swear jar?
They did.
Oh my goodness, that would be so full these days.
It would be. But back then there wasn't any formal training.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things: are you available? Can you make it when there is a fire? Back then, can you lead a team of horses?
Right.
And then it got into the, early 30s through the early 60s. Can you drive a truck? And one of the advents that made a lot of changes that people could handle is all those fire trucks in the early days were standard transmissions, so you had a clutch and a shift, and so it's not just put it in and drive and go.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of things that went on with that, but today for basic firefighter 1, and don't quote me on the hours, but when I got on, it was 60 hours of training, and I know it's more than double of that now. Throughout my career, I love to go to training classes, learn something new on it, and I had over 4,000 hours of training.
Wow.
Throughout the years on it, just various, car extrication, rural water movement, just different tactics on how to attack fires, perform rescues. And a lot of the firefighters are also first responders or EMTs.
I was just going to ask you that. Do they do a lot of EMT training too?
And with the number of people that want to be on the volunteer services, they got to do double duty.
Yeah.
You get out to a car accident, occasionally the fire department would be the very first ones on scene.
Yep.
And they would have to start doing some first aid with whatever they could. And I went through first responder training. For myself, it was just so that if, the ambulance is there, EMS, paramedics or whatever, if they ask me for something, it's like, what's that? So just to, be a little bit more prepared.
Absolutely.
So.
All right, again, we're waiting for the parade. I can finally see the first lights coming down, coming down School Street here. So the first beacons are slowly making their way. So soon we will have the Sesquicentennial Parade coming our way. And again, remember, folks, when it's all said and done, whether you're here now or not, I hope you can join us. Starting at 12 noon today, we will all, and I mean all of you, will be down at Swan Park celebrating the fire department. And it will be a day long, day full of activity. Music all day starting at 1:30 this afternoon. The Desperados performing. After that, we've got Brad Emanuel putting on a show at 4:30. And then tonight at 8. Thank goodness we can all congregate and have some fun with Boogie and the Yo-Yos. It is going to be a great time. As Eric pointed out, I didn't even realize, first time I've gone to see some live music in over a year. So looking forward to it. So
the weather's going to be nice.
And come hungry. There's going to be food everywhere.
there
and
is.
I think somebody said there's even going to be like a big cake for the fire department. Somebody threw together a cake.
I hope so.
Yeah,
And I know
150 years.
And I know they got ice cream up there, so.
Yeah. Kind of looks like, is that the PD leading the parade here? Well, we'll give them a minute to get up the street here, but.
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Why are most fire trucks red?
Why are most fire trucks red? You're starting off with a hard one there, Eric.
Yeah,
Why are most fire trucks red? I could theorize, because you're right, most are red, and a few of them these days are yellow.
Yep.
If they were all yellow, it would make sense to me, because I would say because they're easier to see in the dim light, but I would have no clue why they're all red.
Well, somebody said it was to match the lights, but that's not actually the case. But back in the day when they first started getting motorized fire equipment, most of them were volunteer firefighters putting a truck together, putting a pump on it, and believe it or not, the red paint is the cheapest paint you could buy back in the day.
Well,
that's why barns are red too.
There you go. Well, I guess that makes sense. And just as we were talking about earlier, when it came to the bagpipers, how it became a tradition. Maybe it's the same thing with the red. They were red, so they just stayed red, and now they're red. Yeah.
So out of necessity, I mean, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd rather have my fire department saving money on paint and spending a little more money on hoses and other equipment. So again, it looks like we are ready, folks. If you are here, come on down. There's still plenty of time to grab a seat, whether you're on School Street or Badger. Remember, if you're sitting on Main Street listening to us here, you're probably going to miss some of it, because right where there's a Waupaca ladder truck. We call it a ladder truck or bucket truck. It's got
a ladder truck.
Ladder truck. Okay, because it's got a big old bucket on there. And that thing, by the way, is that purposely bought to? I assume you can reach some of the tallest buildings around Waupaca with that.
Absolutely. And the other thing, it's not necessarily tall, but you have to park that on the street. It's pretty big. So you have to reach horizontally a long way to get to a house. So it's not just up, it's out.
Up and over.
100 feet.